All right, everyone. The morons in Congress are trying to bamboozle us again, especially people on the right. They're trying to create a so-called bipartisan framework called the Dignity Act, which would overhaul the U.S. immigration system. Now, parts of it are good, increasing border security, tending to the wall, and so forth, expediting certain kinds of deportations for violent criminals, and so forth. These are all perfectly fine. The Dignity Act, though, does one thing that is absolutely laughable. And the Republicans in Congress might be dumb enough to fall for it. The liberals want a dignified status for people illegally in the country. What this means is that if a person has committed no other crimes, other than the one that they commit every second that they're on U.S. soil, that they'll be able to apply for a dignity status. What this means is it's a 7-year status that you're given. You'll be able to travel in and out of the country freely. You'll be able to hold a job and do everything else. It's effectively an extension of deferred action, only for a much larger group of people because, any of these people could apply for it. It will also allow people to come into the country with dignified status and family members can come with them. It will also allow them to fill out asylum paperwork on foreign soil. This seems like basically we're going to split a lollipop, right? You and I. And I take the top off the lollipop and then hand you the fuzzy stick and say, okay, that's what you get, and this is what I get. I think that it's rather lopsided now, isn't it? Is while for enforcing the border in and of itself would be helpful, what this is going to do is it's going to cause people who are illegally in the country to try to recruit more people that would be illegally in the country because you go to the border and hopefully it's defended, but some people will get across anyway. And then they simply apply for dignity status. Well, I've been here for X number of years, and so now I qualify. I can go in and out of the country. I can bring my Consuela with me. I can do anything that I want basically, and nobody can do jack shit about it. This is a bad deal. It's being compared to Simpson-Mazzoli for a reason. Simpson-Mazzoli, you got basically blanket amnesty for millions of people. What did we get in return? A half-assed border wall attempt and a few extra officials down there and a few other little things that were a pittance. And then that helped to lead to what became actually the border crisis that really begins back then. It really begins in the 1980s. Right-wingers often won't want to admit this, but it was Ronald Reagan mostly that got the ball rolling by signing off on this ship. It was a terrible idea then. This is a terrible idea now. It doesn't make any sense. Why on earth would people who take border security seriously think that this was a good deal? It doesn't matter if you fortify the border if you're not fortifying the border. The physical border may be fine. Okay, let's say that they complete the wall. Maybe they even double it. There's 2 rows of bollards now, topped with electric wires with a moat in between them filled with alligators and cobras and stuff like that, all the way from sea to shining sea, which would be geographically impossible, but you get what I'm talking about. Let's say that you manage to accomplish that. You blow holes in the mountains with goddamn nukes to level the ground and then build a giant canal and then just have a huge embankment with the bollard on top so that it's virtually impenetrable. Great. That's wonderful. Nobody's going to be coming in illegally. Oh, that's right. Now they can come in quasi-legally under the auspices of someone who is already here illegally. That makes no sense whatsoever. Donald Trump, meanwhile, is talking about raising the tax on remittances, money that people often illegally in the country send back home. They issue a remittance to their families. Now, obviously, I mean, if you send $100 to somebody in a country where the average income is $500 a year, well, I mean, that definitely makes a difference. And so, I mean, I have sympathy for people who are living in poverty and in shitty conditions due to socialism, which is most of the people that are leaving their home countries. You'll notice they're less capitalistic than ours. The fact that we've grown decadent, capitalistic, and overly cosmopolitan is the root of this particular problem. We're the victim of our own success more than anything else. People got too laid back about the issue and said, no, well, times are pretty good, and I've got my microwave dinner over there waiting for me, picket fence out front. So I feel perfectly fine. Let them in. People got decadent and they got overly cosmopolitan, which is a problem outside of certain urban areas. You'd say like New York City or Amsterdam or something like that. They tend to be more cosmopolitan, right? Or Berlin. That's fine. But the people of the country have the right to generally maintain their own territory and want people to at least reasonably assimilate. One of the problems is that the government is actually trying to keep people from assimilating, it seems. You remember when Obama was deliberately taking illegals that were in inner cities and busing them out to small town locations to try to dehomogenize them. It was part of a Marxist process, really, when you think about it. And then it was funny because when the Republicans started sending shipments of illegals to blue cities, all of a sudden, then it was illegal or it was a big problem and got litigated. I thought that was absolutely hysterical. Now, Congress should say no to the Dignity Act. It's a bad idea. Dignity status. What you're referring to, because you can renew it indefinitely, what you're referring to is effectively amnesty. Amnesty, only the person is basically still a slave because they still have fewer rights. So they can't buy a gun and, they can't do this and they can't do that, and they have to keep their nose clean. So you're saying that despite the fact that these people, their first act on our soil was to break our immigration laws and to become a criminal in the process, despite that being their first act, we're now going to reward them with effectively what amounts to amnesty. It's just that they'll have fewer rights. That's the only difference. I don't agree with this. I think the deportation should continue. There should be no Dignity Act. I would defer action on people that would fall under this particular status, but giving them the boon of being able to apply for asylum outside of the country, number one. The fact that it's indefinite, number two. The fact that it would allow them to bring their relatives in, number three. And keep them privy to all of the handouts that society has been giving them, makes no sense. And also, I hate to use the old adage, but they're taking our jobs. This is something that Bernie Sanders used to say effectively. He said, well, we need to strictly control immigration because it'll drive wages down for U.S. workers. That was before he sold out and became a Democrat. That was back when he was actually an independent. I think he reverted to independent status, but he's a Democrat. Well, when you run for the presidency and there's a D after your name because you said, well, fuck it, I'm old and I'm, tired, so I'll do have one last hurrah. And then he sets himself up as a big man of the people. He doesn't care about the American people. He never has. He only cares about himself and those directly, explicitly around him. That's about all. Peace out.